among people of different faith. Jessica now serves on the board of Interfaith Council of Garden Grove, Stanton and Westminster, as well as Claremont Canopy, the local organization that serves the needs of the locally resettled refugees. Jessica is currently a lecturer at Mount San Antonio College and CSU Fullerton. She knows that when compassion is the basis of connection between those of various faiths, spiritualities, and perspectives, peace will be the collective result. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Jessica Moses.
Thank you. Is that okay? Yeah? Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, so I don't usually read, but I'm going to because I have two poems from two powerful women that I want to share, so I need to make sure I get to them and give them their due. So as Diana Eck pointed out, and Eboo Patel has reminded us, that diversity is simply the fact of people with different identities interacting with one another. Pluralism, on the other hand, is an energetic engagement of diversity toward a positive end. So how do we engage? And what are the opportunities and challenges of those engagements? I would like to offer 3 observations of specific opportunities and as well as solutions. So the first is we need to recognize that women have knowledge. Number 2, we need to recognize that women are intelligent. And number 3, we need to recognize that women have power. Now I know that I might be a little biased, but I ask of all of you to validate my truth. I often think of a story in the Book of Mormon of an army of young men who had made a covenant with God their parents had made a covenant with God that they would not fight. And so these young men decided that they would defend their families because they did not make that same covenant. And as they went to war, being raised by parents that did not fight, they had never fought. So in Alma chapter 56, verses 47 through 48, it says, "Now they never had fought, yet they did not fear death. And they did think more upon the liberty of their fathers," and I'm going to add their mothers, "than they did upon their lives. Yea, they had been taught by their mothers that if they did not doubt, God would deliver them. And they rehearsed unto me the words of their mothers, saying, We do not doubt, our mothers knew it." So mothers know, and I'll extend that to saying women know. As I think of the things that I have learned, that I know, that I have a testimony of, because of my participation in interfaith, I think of the things that I want to teach my sons, and I want to teach every young woman that I come in contact with. I want them to know that I have a deeper understanding and appreciation of other faiths and traditions as well as my own. Because of my participation in interfaith, and because of my knowledge that I've gained about Islam and my personal participation in Ramadan, I have a testimony of fasting and of prayer. My love and respect and faith in Scripture has been increased because of Sikhi, as well as my desire to do seva. My gratitude and reverence for the Sabbath has been enhanced because of Judaism. I started a blog along with my friend Rebecca called Mutually Inclusive, which kind of documents these experiences. But these experiences have led me to my second observation, that women are intelligent. When I think of this idea of pluralism, this energetic engagement of diversity toward a positive end, I think of one of my favorite quotes, and it's become almost a mantra in my life, by Abigail Adams. She said, "A person's intelligence is directly reflected by the number of conflicting points of view they can entertain simultaneously at the same time." I believe that women have a unique capacity for this. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to perpetuate a gender binary. We often get stuck in this rational conversation of male, female, masculine, feminine, divine, feminine. But that women can see the conflicting as well as the complementary nature of both. There is space for creative and holistic thinking that can complement strategy without becoming inferior. The intuition of women can be trusted while also acknowledging logic. In fact, just this last week I added this in. On Saturday I was in a session, and during the question and answer session, someone asked, where do you draw the line in interfaith relationships when you have someone that will accept same-sex marriage but refuses to acknowledge an interreligious marriage, while another person will allow same-sex marriage, I got those mixed up, sorry, same-sex marriage but doesn't allow interreligious one, and then another one won't allow a same-sex marriage but will allow an interreligious one. My first reaction in my head, I thought, this is the space for women to come to that dialogue, because women have intelligence and compassion and an intuition and their faith that can resolve that without drawing lines, but having conversations. Lastly, my capstone of observation is that women have power, which is interesting because in my faith tradition, one of our scriptures is the Book of Mormon, and there are only 6 women in 530 plus pages. There are only 6 women that are mentioned by name. In general, there are 150 women that are mentioned, but just as women or mothers or sisters or daughters, in only 150 verses. Likewise, in the Old Testament, there are about 200 women mentioned by name. Women in general, there are about 400, but that pales in comparison to the 3,000 men that are mentioned by name. And we can have all sorts of conversations about why that is, historical context, male authors, male translators, but in the end, I believe that the challenge is that we need to find space, we need to create space, and we need to take back space for women. I am creating space. I am taking back space, and I am a woman. I was raised by a strong, intelligent, independent, powerful, compassionate woman named Charla Lee Hornung. And now I'm gonna cry. I made it this far. But now I want, by a show of hands, how many of you have been taught, reared, inspired by women? Second question, can you name them? So that is my solution, is we need to name them. Now I want to share 2 stories, or 2 poems by powerful women. So I'm taking a step back, I'm simply a voice. One is a poem by Carolyn Pearson. She's a Mormon feminist, and this is entitled Motherload. She says, "Motherhood has ruined me for life. I want to nurse the world, a continent to a breast. I want to cut up waffles for all the third world, send the dictator to his room, ground the drug dealer, wash the pornographer's mouth out with soap, and spray organized crime with black flag. I want to make all the politicians and all the executives sit down on a couch and memorize the golden rule and stand up and say it in unison. I want to grab a bullhorn and I want to announce to the world that all the barbecues will stop unless all the litter has been picked up. Oh, I could fix everything if they would just listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. I have illusions of grandeur. I am a mother." The second poem is by a dear friend of mine who couldn't be here this weekend, but it's being recorded for you, Danya. She goes by the name Lady Narrator, and this is entitled Tired. "Mama calls me strong and confident. I tell her unlikely. when I've suffered a detrimental breakdown for the last 36 days and counting. She tells me those are not mutually exclusive. The latter is only a byproduct. Exhaustion from fighting a society eagerly trying to tear down the aforementioned. Sometimes I feel invincible, like the continuous waves of life are not turbulent enough to rock me overboard. But I don't know how to swim, and often I question my survival. Is it because I fear drowning, or is it because I'm strong enough to survive? And are those two the same? I question the contradictions of writing words I wish empowered me as much as I empower them. The tides of life, I guess, we ebb and flow. Some days are invincibility, and some days are fighting to stay afloat, fighting to be seen. When they said love is blind, they meant one day I'd love the world so much I'd lose sight of myself. And the harder I try to see me, the easier it is for people to leave me. We're shamed for wanting to be seen. We remain hidden in our struggles, hidden in our efforts, hidden in our being. Do you know how tiring it is to be a walking irony, a visible woman so unseen, surrounded by blind souls who know she's right here but refuse to see her? So I learned to love being invisible, makes every rare moment beneath the spotlight all that more prolific. But they, like me, least when I am most human. When I am most vulnerable, giving them truth in its rawest form, in female form, in my form, rebellious, unapologetic, heartfelt, real. The world didn't see how we needed decades to build an army, as in decades to build ourselves, and with each destruction we gather newly shaped pieces of ourselves for the reconstruction. Had they never broken us, we'd never been cracked open, never have gotten those fractures, those spaces to finally let all that needed to go out and all that needed to come in. Glass only becomes finer art when shattered and remade, its expansion hidden in plain sight. What magic it is to see your resurrection as growth. So I've decided to close my eyes and never open them again until you see me. Until you see the path I walk, the friction I create. I am not moving to keep myself alive. I am alive to keep others moving, to see others in their movements. After all, it takes someone so unseen to recognize a vision when they see one. We are visionaries, outworking between the folds of our own darkness, lighting the candles that keep others moving, that keep others seen. And we, unseen heroes or unseen survivors, we deserve to be recognized. We deserve to be seen. We deserve to be told, I see you. I see you. So you see, women are powerful, and yet they're overwhelmed and they're tired. The solution to this specific challenge is to see, to recognize, and to honor the knowledge, the intelligence, and the power of women. But we can only do that if we listen to them. If they have the space to tell their stories and have them be validated in return. I have a goal, I have a dream, that I can create a repository of women's stories, not just notable and influential women, but the unnamed and the tired. To our mothers, to our grandmothers, our sisters and our aunts, our daughters and our nieces, we need to see them, we need to hear them, and we need to give them space to share their story, to feel safe and to feel validated. Thank you.